Alright, so now that we have all that set up, it's saved, we got our name, we loaded that tool pack, that add-in that we're going to use later, we're all set to go. So prior to completing this, or prior to you completing this, I went ahead and measured the height of 20 students in our class. And I've added in that data right here already for you. So each one of these students here, it gives you the feet and inches, so how tall they are. What we're going to do next is convert that feet and inches into just decimal feet. So to do that, we're going to use this data and enter an equation into this cell. So how do I do that? So you click on this cell right here. So for student 1, we're going to convert this. So I'm going to click there, and then up here we have a formula bar where I can enter in a formula. Now, whenever you're in Excel, it will typically always start with an equal sign. So go ahead and click on the equal sign next to the backspace key. We're going to do equals, and we want to do B6, which is this. So I can just click on that. And then I'm going to go and hit the plus sign, so shift, and the equal will give you the plus, which is next to the backspace, so shift, and that plus sign will give you the plus, and then we want to add this one, so B6 plus C6, and then we want to divide, so a slash, and we want to divide it by 12, because there's 12 inches in a foot. So that formula is going to take this plus this and then divide it by 12 and put our answer there. And I'm going to hit enter on the keyboard. So the decimal feet version of 5 feet 6 inches is 5.5. So again, if I click on that cell, you can see the equation that I typed in the formula bar. Now, I don't feel like typing that equation for B7 and C7 and then B8 and C8. So instead of doing that, I'm going to click on this cell, and you're going to notice a little green box on the bottom right corner of it. And I'm simply going to hover over that, and you see a little crosshair pop up. Click, hold down the left mouse button, and drag it down all the way to here. And what it just did was it copied that formula into each cell. So watch what happens in the formula bar up top. Notice that it switched to B7 and C7, B8 and C8. So it took all of that and calculated the decimal feet version of all of these for me, which is really nice. What are we going to do next? Let's sum all of our data, so all the decimal feet of all 20 students down right here. So if I click into that cell, now there's a few ways you could do this. You could go type in the equation up here for sum, but I'm going to show you a little bit quicker way of doing this instead of typing it. So make sure you're clicked in there, and then come over here to where it says auto sum under the editing area and click on that. As soon as I do that, it puts in the equation for me. So if you see equals sum, and it says D6 to D25, and you'll notice that it's highlighting the correct data. I just want to make sure that it's summing the correct data, so I'm going to just hit enter on the keyboard, and boom, it just summed all of that data for me right here. So now let's scroll back up. Let's go do the mean. So I'm going to click into this cell, which is G6, next to the mean here, and let's do mean. Now I could type in the formula again, but instead I'm going to drop down this menu next to auto sum, and I'm going to go to more functions. And actually, I take that back. I'm going to just go to average, because remember, mean is the average. So I'm going to click on average, but the problem is it's averaging the wrong thing. It's averaging all of, what is this, row 6? I don't want that. So I'm going to left click hold right here on my first data value, and as I hold, I'm going to scroll down. I'm just holding and moving my mouse down until I select all 20 data sets there for the decimal feet. And if you look at the equation, equals average, parentheses, D6 colon D25. So it's going to take the average of all of these and calculate the mean for me. So I'm going to hit enter on the keyboard. and it has now calculated the mean of all of that data. Again, if I click in the cell, you could simply see the equation that I could have typed in instead. So you could just type in that equation if you don't want to go over to this. Alright, let's do mode. Mode is going to be, again, I could type in the formula here, but instead I'm going to use that More Functions button this time. So I'm going to drop this down and go to More Functions. Now, I could go and try and search for this thing and look through a list of stuff, but if you look, you can just search by typing in keywords here. So I'm going to just backspace here and I'm going to type in mode, and then I'm going to click on go. As soon as I do that, there's mode. So yes, that's what I want to do, so I'm going to click OK. Now it wants to know, well, what do you want to do the mode for? I want to do the mode for all of my data here. So again, I'm going to left click hold my left mouse button and then select all of these, just moving my mouse down, all of those. And if you look at the equation, equals mode, parentheses, D6 to D25, parentheses, I'm going to click OK. And it calculated the mode for me. Moving on down the line, we have standard deviation for a population and standard deviation for a sample, which is what we talked about in our last assignment. So, quick review, standard deviation for population is when you have all the data you need, meaning you collected it from every single, like let's say you're going to, for example, the heights, or the height of all your students in the class. Now, I only took 20 students, but there's actually 28 students in the class. So I didn't collect all the data I needed. If I would have collected all 28 students, I would use your population standard deviation. A sample standard deviation is when you only collect a sample of your data. For example, 20 students in the class. And a sample standard deviation is just an estimate of the spread of data within a larger population. So sample is used when you don't get all the data you need. Population is used when you collect everything you need. So let's do the standard deviation population version. So to do that, I'm going to drop this down and go to More Functions again. And I'm going to type in standard deviation population. Now I'm going to hit go. And we want to grab this one right here that has the stdev.p. And then click OK. Again, it wants to know what data you want to analyze, and we want to grab all of these. Okay. And then hit enter. Notice it's from D6 to D25. Notice the equation. So I'm going to hit enter on the keyboard, and it's now just calculated that. So it's doing all the work for me. I just need to tell it what formula I want to use and what data I want to calculate it with. Let's go back again and do, make sure you click into this cell for standard deviation sample. And I'm going to drop that down and go to More Functions. Type that in, standard deviation sample. And that's the one we want right there. Again, I clicked go. That's the one I want there, so I'm going to say OK. What data do I want to analyze? From here, left click hold, move my mouse down all the way to here. Make sure you don't get the sum, you don't want that. D6 to D25. Say OK, and there's that one. Alright, so let's talk about minimum. So what is the smallest height that I have in here? Now I could go through and try and find it, but what if I had 100 data points? That's going to take forever. So I'm going to have this software again do it for me. So I'm going to click into that cell next to minimum. I'm going to drop this down, and you'll notice right here in the drop down menu there is a min. So we're going to click on that. But it's calculating the min out of these two. I don't want that. I want it to calculate the min out of these. So I'm going to select again D6 down to D25. Notice the equation. hit enter on the keyboard, and out of all 20 data sets or values, the minimum was 5.17. Alright, let's do median. So your median, we're going to click in the cell next to it, drop this down, go to more functions, type in median, click go. There it is. I'm going to say OK. Where do I want to calculate the median? I want it from D6 all the way to D25. Say OK or hit enter, and there's the median. Let's do max. So I'm going to click there, drop that down, go to max. I want to calculate the max from here to here, hit enter on the keyboard, and there's my max. Range. Now range, we're actually going to have to type something in here because range is your max minus your min. So I'm going to click in the range cell, and then I'm going to go up here again to the formula bar. Always start with the equal, and this is going to be, what cell is this? This is G15, so I'm going to click there, minus, and then I'm going to click on the min, G11. So if you look, there's my equation, the max minus the min, hit enter on the keyboard, and there is your range. Alright, the last part of this video is going to be adjusting the decimal places for this information. So what I'm going to do is click on this first one for the mean, left click, hold my mouse button and select all of these. And I'm going to increase, or actually, you know what, I'm going to click on this little button right here next to number, this little arrow. So I'm going to click on that, and it's going to pop up this Format Cells button. So this little button right there is what you're clicking, and it'll pop this open. And then you're going to click on Number right here, and we're going to adjust it. I'm going to hit the up button once. I want 3 decimal places. I'm going to say OK. So now all of that data is going to that 3rd decimal place. In the next video, we're going to talk about using the data to create a histogram and also create a summary of the data, so you actually don't have to do this every single time. What I'd like you to do right now, though, please make sure you save.